Hear me out. I love Bedrock Block Party, and I think that the consensus about this game is understandable but quite inaccurate and very oversimplified. So I kind of want to shine a light on the hidden gem that is Bedrock Block Party. So the biggest problems is a combination of three. Firstly, every round there's guaranteed to spawn one power-up, but most of the times it's more like 2 or 3, right? Combine this with the fact that floors are half the size of Pixel Party's maps, 32 by 32, making it so that power-ups are not only spawning every round, they are also insanely common or easy to grab. This isn't the worst thing, because the third thing is the actual power-ups, which, you know, we're only talking about one power-up here, the color teleport. The color teleport literally plays the game for you by teleporting you onto the color on command. If this isn't broken enough, think about the fact that the chance of getting, since there are only 4 power-ups in the game, the chance of getting a color teleport is 25%. Doesn't sound too bad, but if you think about the fact that if you compare it to an Ender Pearl in Pixel Party, the chance of getting an Ender Pearl is less than 10%. Isn't it crazy that an Ender Pearl, which in comparison is nothing compared to a color teleport, is that more or less likely to appear? Crazy imbalance. How can anybody ever think that this game is good? Before I start to argue why I think this game is actually good, I want to pull a Zach and say why I feel the most qualified to talk about this. I am the only max level Pixel Party player to have seriously tried this game, and at some point I even knew spawns. On top of that, I think I've faced off against most of the actual good leaderboard players, so I know roughly what this game looks like when multiple competent players play this. How is this game good? For starters, despite there being a power-up that literally teleports you onto the color, all of the other power-ups are not only genuinely good and useful, but they're also quite balanced. There is no useless item in this game. So, what? Well, this makes it so that, despite there being a color teleport, even if you don't have one, you can still pull off sick things with the power-ups because they're all able to let you survive rounds that you normally shouldn't. So why is this so important? Let me explain the strategy. In earlier rounds, you tend to use speed to get all their power-ups, and in the late rounds, once you've gotten these power-ups, you start using jump potions for 0.5 seconds and feathers for rounds before that because it's easier to aim because you have extra time. And, well, color teleports are kind of whatever you want them to be. So, with that super simple strategy out of the way, how is this like so important? The important thing is item management. This means that, of course, like how and when you use your items, right? So why is that so cool? Because there is a lot of depth that goes into the game when you add the thing of when you add a bunch of items. So, do you use this speed potion to attempt to steal the power-up, or do you want to save it for later rounds? Do you use this color teleport early to guarantee survival, or do you risk using a jump potion or a feather, or both? Because, you know, if you have a color teleport in 0.5 seconds, you're basically guaranteed to live, which you aren't when you only have a jump potion and a feather, right? So, thoughts like these, the risk management is just something that you almost never have in Pixel Party games. And when you're playing against actual players in Bedrock, you have these thoughts constantly. Okay, well, that's like cool and all, but color teleports still play the game for you. So like, who really cares, right? Well, here's my last thing for this, is that we can just remove color teleports. We don't play Pixel Party in every tournament with power-ups. So how is it fair to say color teleports ruin Bedrock? If you say color teleports ruin Bedrock, it's like saying that KB sticks ruin Bed Wars. Perhaps in some random game, yeah, sure, but in any competitive setting, it's usually just bad. So we can just remove them in our rule sets, and that should be it, right? Well, it's cool, but you'd still have too many items, and the game would be way too easy if you just get 4 jump boosts and 5 feathers. Well, here's my last trump card. Custom games and custom game settings. With custom game settings, we can make it so that less power-ups appear, meaning only 1 per round, for example, and we add 2 new power-ups that are both negative, slowness and blindness. Yes, you can sprint through the blindness. This means that the problem of too many good power-ups should be solved. And now if you ban color teleports, we would have either a 50% chance of getting a bad item, right? Slowness, blindness, or color teleport, and a 50% chance of getting a good power-ups. And since we only have 1 power-up per round, let's say in a 1v1, out of the 25 rounds, on average you only get 20 power-ups or less, right? Because of the pace of the game. And now since you only get 20, it's still a 1v1, right? So let's say it's evenly split between the 2 players, so per player it's only 10 power-ups. Since half of the power-ups are either bad or completely useless, on average you're only going to get like 5 good power-ups. Do we think this game is balanced now? Fuck yeah, I think it is. And if we allow color teleports, you would still average only getting like 6 or 7 good power-ups, right? Which still isn't a lot for this game. But I'm not stopping there yet. Some smaller things that I wanted to mention that are insanely important, inspiration from Zach's video, right, is that the pacing of this game is great. You have little time to move, right, so it's little mental preparation before the color gets appeared, meaning that positioning is insanely important, like things like pre-jumping, right, and map knowledge is even more important than it already is. So this enhances fast-paced decision-making and just like a fast-paced game in general, which is something that I'd love to see and something that is completely missing from Pixel Party. And lastly, the balance of floors isn't that bad. This game isn't easy to the point where you never die and you always just have power-ups to live, and it's also not too hard to constantly get RNG'd on 0.5. So yeah, I don't think this game is really all that crazy and really all that evil as people make it out to be. Overall, I think this game gets hated for understandable reasons. But since we as a community never really tried to make it work, I think it's pretty unfair, and I think in our eyes it was just a bunch of scrap. Well, this game can function just fine if we tweak it a little. The level of mind games there are in this game compared to Pixel Party is actually insane, just because of the way power-ups influence it. At the end of the day, comparing this game to something like competitive Pixel Party or Blox MC, it's like comparing F1 to Mario Kart. It's still a racing game, but Pixel Party and something like Blox MC is centered around its jumps, while Bedrock is centered around power-ups with jumps. Most people don't like this, and that's, yeah, completely fine. But I think to say that it's bad or whatever because of that, it's a bit unfair. I'll leave it at this for now. Just like Zach, I'm not a Bible. Make your own opinions, but this is mine.